Welcome to Drive Time Exchange. As rubber hits the road, hard talk meets great music. Monday to Thursday, 4 to 6 p.m. on Nett Radio, taking you above and beyond.
Well, this is Dr. Ricky Jai with a message for my people. Divided, we will fall. United, we shall stand. Hey, let's go. Hey, ba ba da ba 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 dee 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 ba ba da 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 day. Hey, I come to show what Chutney can do. I want to show what Kaiso can do. And here we go. Sing about crime, it's not my concern. But when bullets flying, everyone gets burned. As if Chutney singers don't feel the pain too. So I come with a Kaiso Chutney for you. The struggles in life, we all face the same thing. I make this statement as undisputed Chutney king. With homelessness, murders and vagrancy, please don't expect me to just sing about rum and roti. So tell them that this year Ricky
singing Kaiso Chutney commentary.
Tell them this year Ricky Jai
Chutney commentary and try.
Crime is hurting me like it's hurting you. A Chutney Kaiso is long overdue. Don't box me in one corner and the ring. I feel it's only Chutney that I can sing. I want to address suffering and pain. Poverty and gangs give us a bad name. I hope all you see this is me fight too. I come to show what Kaiso Chutney can do. Tell them that this year Ricky singing Kaiso Chutney commentary. Tell them this year Ricky Jai giving Chutney commentary. Ba ba da 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 dee 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 dee. Ba ba da dee 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 dee. It have no hospital beds for your sickly child. Does it matter if you like Chutney or Kaiso style? Medicine shortage, doctors in distress. Does Chutney or Kaiso people feel it less? The nation crying, the crime rate on overflow. Murder toll brick, records all up in Tobago. Corruption spread like a disease in we country. But they still expect me to sing about rum and honey. Tell them that this year Ricky singing Kaiso Chutney commentary. Tell them this year Ricky Jai giving Chutney commentary a try. Healthcare in crisis, the people can't cope. I sing it to bring a message of hope. This pain is real and we feel the blow. This is no mama guy and no papi show. When leaders fail, who will take a stand? We've all had enough, it's time to demand. Don't tell me to stick to me Chutney dance. When murderers not giving we a chance. Don't tell them that this year Ricky singing Kaiso Chutney commentary. Tell them this year Ricky Jai giving Chutney commentary.
All right, everybody, and of course, this is where we welcome you inside of the Drive Time Exchange. Of course, you are listening to New Era TT Radio, the heartbeat of the Caribbean, and of course, we take you above and beyond. This is your Drive Time Exchange, and of course, this is where we hook up with none other than journalist extraordinaire himself, Tony Fraser. Tony, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you, Charlo. And today has been a good day, a little bit of rain, plenty sun, and I'm sure that we are all enjoying the circumstances of today. Yes?
It is a beautiful day. All right. I'm working on that situation for you, so while you start, I'll try and see if I could get it organized, right?
Wonderful.
Right.
We have one. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Sir Charles.
Yeah. Are you hearing me?
Yeah, hearing you loud and clear.
Right. So
just saying that one of our guests, Reds Pereira, there's a little bit of a technical difficulty to be worked on.
So I'm trying to sort out that for you.
Wonderful. And as soon as that is achieved, we are here with you, and we continue. We start in the meantime. So we're talking.
Right. Well, he's coming in now.
Wonderful. Reds Pereira, where are you?
His mic is muted. His mic and his camera is muted. So you have to unmute him. Somebody, the person with him will sort him out in a short time. So you go ahead in the meantime.
So we're talking West Indies cricket. That is always a painful exercise for West Indians everywhere. And it's not any more painful now than it has been in the past, and probably will get worse before it gets better. We know what has happened in the series so far against Australia. Australia won the first test match by a very wide margin, scuttled the West Indian effort in the second innings. West Indies did well enough, better than a low-scoring match first innings, and West Indies were in front by 10 runs. In the second innings, they were behind by 100-plus runs, so that there is a big road to come back from. We know all of the problems and all of that, but let me hear from our guests. I see, well, let me tell you who my guests are. We have Bruce Ananson, who once told me that I should describe him as a West Indian supporter, and I'm sure I can add who gets pained when the West Indies go under. Andre Lawrence, a former cricketer and a commentator. And we have a name here that should ring a bell amongst West Indians, a man called Basil Butcher. He's taking up, I don't know if he's taking up on the field, might be a little bit past that from his father. The original Basil Butcher, West Indian middle order batsman, and young Basil has followed in his steps as a cricket lover. Welcome to the program, through you gentlemen. As I indicated, we have Joseph Reds Pereira, Dr. Joseph Reds Pereira, to come as soon as the technical difficulties are sorted. Let me start with Andre. There's no point me, identifying any one difficulty that we have to do some work on before the second test match starts tomorrow. What are the problems that are in front of us, Andre, that we have the capacity to solve?
Tony, are you hearing me?
Loud and clear. Thank you, Reds. Okay, so we're starting with Andre. Go ahead, Andre.
Good afternoon to the panel, and welcome everybody, and to the listeners out there. Thank you for having me, Tony. So you talk about West Indies challenges. So, but I'm happy that you said deal with the ones right before us, because that list is a little bit long, and I wouldn't be sure where to start if I was to generalize. But certainly, for me, if you drop seven catches, if you put down 7 chances as an international team in a test match, especially a low-scoring one, that before us is a huge problem that can be solved hopefully fairly quickly with a bit of practice in between the tests. So hopefully that the guys would have had opportunity to focus a little bit more on their slip catching in particular and their outfield game, because when you have one of the formulas to make you a competitive team is that you have an all-round performance. So bowling and batting must come into play, but certainly fielding is a critical aspect of the game. India just lost the first test against England, and they also put down 7 chances in their match. And how close was their finish at the end? West Indies had challenges, as you said, with the third umpire, but to me, when you put that aside, the difference between the two teams was obviously the catching and certainly the West Indies batting. That part, I don't know how quickly you can solve that issue, because it's a tough one to solve straight away in just 2 or 3 days after the first test. So I don't know if sweeping changes need to be made, but I don't know if also some of those initial selections were the right ones. We are the region, they've asked us to help them celebrate Craig Brathwaite's 100th test match tomorrow. But I believe that has been, unfortunately, one of our major issues over the last year. Craig has been averaging 19 in test cricket, and he's also he sort of stalls the innings at the top of the order, and for me, puts pressure on the middle order batsman. So for him to be playing, even though it's his 100th test, I think that's a bold move, and that's how I'll describe it.
Okay. Let me hear from young Basil Butcher, son of the famous Basil Butcher. Your take on the changes that can be made in the immediate circumstances. You know, we have a 16 or whatever the number is, and we have to select from there, so we can't go outside. And so there are not a whole array of changes. Andre has identified this fielding lapse that we had in the first test. So what are some of the things that need immediate attention that we can bring solutions to?
Good afternoon, Tony. Thank you for inviting me, and good afternoon to the panel and your listeners. One of the things one of the things I think they can do is have more application in their batting. Some people talked about the conditions and so on and so forth. And I remember as a young boy, I heard Rohan Kanai say something. At the time, I didn't understand what he said when he said players make conditions. But as I grew older, I understood what he meant, because based on your technique and application on whatever service you're playing is going to make the difference, because one guy could look like it's a whole different surface versus another guy. So one of the things, the main thing they can try to change, is some of these white ball players that have been included into the team played like they were playing a white ball cricket match and forgot that there are 3 slips in the gully waiting behind them, and lost sight of knowing where their off stump was, right? And their footwork was not, where they would stand in the crease and stand and deliver like in a white ball game. The ball edges, it goes to 4. We clap and say yay, but in a test match, that goes to somebody waiting behind there for you. And one of the things the Australians did, as you would note, they never relented from attacking the entire inning when West Indies was batting in the first inning. There was always 3 slips in the gully. They never stepped back, even at times like when Chase and Hope seemed to be doing some repair there. They never stepped back. They kept going, kept coming at us. So that, and the other thing, the Australians are always been a team that come hard at you. And at times people may say we may call them the bullies. But one thing about a bully, if you could punch them back in the mouth, they step back. And that is something the West Indian players, particularly our batters, have to be able to do. And lastly, you cannot be chasing 301 and looking to play shots like what Mr. Campbell did. You got to have way better game awareness, our batters.
Okay. Bruce and Anson. Bruce, your mic, you need to unmute your mic. Bruce, I don't know if you're hearing me, but you need to unmute your mic. You have to stop and unmute your microphone. Your microphone, you have to unmute your microphone.
So, Bruce, if you're hearing us, you need to unmute your microphone. Your microphone is muted.
Okay. Doesn't seem as if he's hearing us.
He's trying. It looks like he's trying to, but he's not being able to.
All right. So we will let's go on to Reds Pereira, and we will come back to Bruce in the meantime. See if we can get to him to tell him to unmute. Put your microphone on so that we can hear you. We are not hearing you. Let's go to Dr. Joseph Reds Pereira, and your sizing up, your assessment of what happened in the first test and what are the things that we have to do going into the second test.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me, Tony. Good afternoon to young Butcher. who I had the great opportunity of seeing a lot of his father, including a great hundred of Lords in 1963. Good afternoon to Bruce and the rest of the panel. The brother who made the opening remark talked about an important point, the construct of the 16. I think that's where we got it a little wrong, and now we have no elbow room to change. I was happy to be at Kensington for the first day, thanks to the West Indies board, because myself and Tony Koja did the World Cup in '75, and they remembered that, well, unfortunately, the great Tony has passed, but they remembered that I was part of the CBU team and was part of the final. I was very pleased to see us competing for the first 2 days. We competed for the first 2 days. But that included, of course, as it went on, the drop catches. If we had held those catches, Australia would not have made 180. Australia probably would have settled for 150. And all of a sudden, the whole pressure on the West Indies would have been less. I do agree that our openers were a little cavalier. I was really surprised to see John Campbell try to execute the shots that he would play in a T20 in a test match. The bowling held its own. We cannot blame the bowling. The bowling held its own. I was a little surprised that Chase, the captain, only bowled Warrican a total of 8 overs, and that suggests lack of confidence. We have to really see a much better batting approach. We batted better in the first innings when the wicket was doing a lot. When the wicket got a little flatter and the ball got a little softer, we just was indisciplined. Now, my understanding is that we are playing the same team. I don't know if anybody has heard, anybody has received an email to this, but I'm told that we are playing the same team. I saw a statement from Darren Sammy saying we are playing the same team. That surprises me. I would not have played Campbell. I would have, in fact, included Imlach and allow Hope to concentrate on his batting. I would not have played Warrican, and basically my 2 changes is no Warrican, no Campbell, and I would be opening with Brathwaite and King. That is the up-to-date situation as I know it.
Sorry, Reds. Still attempting to get Bruce on the air. He said, and Charlo, you can listen to that. He said that his microphone here is showing that it's unmuted, but I told him that on the screen it shows that he's
and there's nothing from here I can do again, because everybody else comes through the same system, So I don't know. Maybe he could probably log off and log back on, and that probably may help him.
Okay, right, Bruce. If you're hearing us, what you can do is log off and then log back on, and that might fix the problem. Okay, but we still can't hear you. All right, so sorry, Reds. I had to go off to try to get this thing. So I can't follow up with a question from what you said. So maybe somebody else who was listening to Reds and heard Reds can interject at this point in time, and so let the conversation go on. Andre?
Hello, Reds.
Hello,
and good afternoon to you. And I thought an excellent contribution. And as you quite rightly said, the 16 that were selected, we really can't do anything much about that at the moment. But certainly, I am in agreement that Imlak should be in the starting 11. And for me, while it might sound harsh, the change at the top of the order wouldn't be Campbell, but for me, it would be Brathwaite. Now, a hard call. He's entering his 100th test, but again, I'm not one to with the thought process that King should be opening, and when he's already been put in the mindset that his role is to bat in the middle order and to be aggressive.
Yeah.
So for me, I would have left Campbell there at the moment. He got a few runs in the second innings while he played an awful shot, terrible shot, especially in the circumstances. I would have allowed him to play and stay there. But for me, the hard call would have been Brathwaite at the top of the order. But we saw the manager of the team on the Windies cricket site advertising, come out and celebrate Craig's 100th test match. So I can tell you that that marketing ploy tells me that Craig is playing for sure. So my wish won't be granted.
Yeah, Andre, I would like to say is that for once again, I saw Campbell, and whether or not he's attempting T20 batting this time around, to me, he simply is not a test class batsman. And I am not too sure who can replace him at the top of the order. And I agree fully with you with Brathwaite. In fact, I've been arguing for the last two series that he's played in. It's all well known that he has a poor technique. He shuffles and just sticks the bat out. But maybe when his reflexes were a little bit sharper, he got away with it. He's not getting away with it now. So I agree with you fully that he should be put out of the team, but also with John Campbell. I'm not too sure how we're going to open with in the circumstances if we put two of them out, but maybe that's a conversation that everyone can get involved. Basil, what do you say?
I would drop Carty because I don't think Carty is test quality neither. So and bring Imlak in and just whomever they're going to decide to go at 3. Look, I know I agree Campbell has been absolutely poor. But I go by a dictum. I'm not going to replace somebody who I know has been there, done it, that with an unknown. So I would more drop Carty.
Any other thoughts from anyone else? Reds, how do you respond to the suggestions that have been made with your original comment?
Well, I kept Carty in my 11. When you hear the president of the West Indies board say prior to the start of the first ball that he hopes Brathwaite will celebrate his 99 at Bridgetown and his 100 at St. George's, I thought that was not the place of a president. You're putting pressure. You're signaling early o'clock that he's going to play. But what are the options? I am not sold on Louis. I think Louis has technical faults, and the Australians will probably dismiss him very, very early. So I'm sticking to my 11. I noticed nobody has talked about my idea of leaving out Warrican, and we go back to the original 16 that our colleague talked about, Andre. Should not have been made the vice captain. They have now locked themselves into the vice captaincy and whether to drop him or not. But my bold situation is that he doesn't seem to be able to make a contribution at Kensington. He's not going to get a turner in St. George's. I will not play Brathwaite. I will play Brathwaite and open with King. I'm letting Campbell go, but we'll wait and see what they will do. Hope plays as a batsman and Imlach keep. So my two changes will be no Brassett, no Warwickon. And the voting remains the same.
Reds. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Reds.
No,
go ahead.
No,
Sorry, go ahead, Basil. Sorry.
I was gonna ask, gonna say Reds in terms of the suggestion of Campbell. I'm not Campbell, sorry, King to open. Let's go back to the media release upon the selection of the team. What did Mr. Sammy say? We have designated a special role for Mr. King, and that special role is not opening batting. And we know how Mr. Sammy, with this delusional notion about certain roles in Test cricket, when I am saying a Test batsman has to have the capability to come into any situation and navigate that situation accordingly. It's not a roles thing. This is not T20 or maybe ODI cricket, right? And I tend to agree with you, Reds, regarding Warwickon. I would much rather play Philip, because again, they play and chase captains like he's captaining in white ball cricket, that the left-hand spinner cannot be bowling to the left-handers in Australia, where in Test cricket, if you're a spinner, you have to be able to bowl to everyone. So if that is the way you're gonna use Warwickon, I would say sit them out and bring in Philip. So we play the four seamers and the medium pacer, as well as Chase to come in and at times to relieve, if so be it.
You know, I think this West Indies 16, and starting with the captaincy, you know, I can't see how Chase could be a captain, frankly, if he can't hold his place in the team. But then the reality is that we have a mediocre group of players, and I don't know, maybe it's his age. I don't know what brought him into the limelight as captain of the team. He gets some wickets in T20 and the shorter versions of cricket. But I seem coming through from what has been said so far, that the West Indies at this point is stuck at the West Indies Selection Committee. And really West Indies cricket is stuck with a whole lot of mediocre players who are in a test team. And sometimes I wonder if they should be there, period. I don't know if that is too negative.
Well, Tony, I listened to what Basil was saying just a short while ago, and I totally agree. What we've done with this team is, in my view, we've taken average white ball cricketers and who were not very successful test cricketers in the most part. The last time they appeared, they were dropped from the test team. We've brought them back into the test team and asked them to perform certain roles that they've never been able to do in first-class cricket or test cricket before, ever. Mm-hmm. They think that you can, in a test match or a first-class game, you can crash, bang, wallop against one of the best teams in the world, arguably the best team in the world, that easily. They have things called slips lined up in the back there, with no foot movement, which is what you're seeing, very evident in some of the players, and particularly King. You're gonna hit one or two when the ball doesn't move, but as soon as it deviates a little bit off the pitch or it takes a little shape in the air, you're finished. And that is what is happening to the players that we have at the moment, and that is what we are stuck with. So I understand Sammy thinking that we're going to take this group, we're going to be a lot more positive and be a lot more aggressive. But we are guys, they're short of guys who are technically sound enough to play a test innings and even to probably concentrate for long hours in the slip cordon, things like that. That is the big challenge we face right now. How do we get rid of it in very short time? I don't have the answer to that one.
And something you just said there about concentrating the slip cordon. The only guy, if memory serves me correct, fielded in the slip cordon for long periods was Braves, right?
Correct.
We noticed Mr. King dropped 3 catches because in a one-day match he's not going to be in that position.
No, he's not there.
That is not something he's accustomed to. A lot of these variables, I don't know if the coaching staff how they came about came about this. And the other thing you correctly said, because I argued, I know Atene's averaging 25. I know Hodge averaging 25. But Hodge showed me he could score 100 in a test match in England, where England is not the easiest place to score 100. And I feel bad for Atenes, where my last test inning I made 55, which was the highest score in the match, and was a match-winning inning. We won the test match in Pakistan in difficult conditions. And the next time you pick a test team, I'm not even in the squad, right? And you're saying, oh, I averaged 25, but the guys you brought in averaging the same thing, but they don't have the requisite runs. You got Hope, who hasn't played a test match in 4 years, comes in to replace me, and you bring in King, who averaged 30 in our first class season in the games he played this year. If you extrapolate that to test cricket, it's probably more like 10, right? And saying that these are the guys who are going to push us forward. I struggle to see that, but I wish them all the best coming up.
Let me talk about, put something on the table for you to respond to. As far as I was concerned, two players played well, two batsmen that is, played well in the first test. The first one is Graves. How he shaped, he looked like a test batsman. His technique is not great, but it's far better than a whole lot of them. His defense is compact. He doesn't leave the wide open spaces as the others. And I think technically he is sounder, if that's a word, than the other players in the team as batsmen. And the second player who batted in a sensible kind of way, well, I don't know if sensible is the word, but what he impressed me with was his positive attitude. And you know who that was? Shemar Joseph. His batting was free, to my mind, was free from all the constraints that West Indian batsmen have shown over the last 20 years. They dig in, they play here, they play there, they get beaten, etc., etc. Shema took his life in his hands, and not so much his batting but his his mind, his perspective on being free. Our players have a losing mentality. It has been dogging them for quite some time now. And that is my assessment of one, the technically capable player who showed himself to be. And the second one is the one who does not succumb to the inferiority complex of West Indian cricketers of the last 20 years.
Tony? Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, Reds.
Well, I don't believe what is said about bringing the white ball players in is very correct. But we could not be surprised, because that's exactly what they said when they appointed Darren Sammy. Yeah. That he will be able to get the white ball players in and produce a better batting lineup. I felt that Hodge got a bad deal. Deal.
Yeah.
I just want to go back to Baz's point about Atenes. I was pulled in to cover the South African A, West Indies A. And I was surprised that Atenes didn't see this as a test trial. I think that he lost his place all by himself. I mean, because he played some rash shots. He got out soft dismissals. Had he in fact put his head down and continued where Basil said off the last test match he played, I think he would have been in. He just didn't get the scores against South Africa A, and his scores were low. But what was most disappointing is his shot selections to get out. I just want to go back to the captaincy. I think
Red, sorry, you make a point there that I think we should discuss amongst us before you go on to the second point. You will come back and go on to that second point. What I think about Asen is, in a test match, the first ball that he receives, he attempts to reverse sweep. 2 and 3 times and he gets out right in front of the wicket all the time. And I can't understand the mindset of a player like that not to commit suicide a second time and a third time. I don't know if somebody can get into his head and tell him, well, you know, that foolishness that you're doing, it just don't work.
Apparently, I heard him say that, and I give him kudos for this because he's one of the young players of this generation that has great respect for the past players. And he says he speaks a lot with the great Lara. And Lara said to him, you have to learn to strike the balance. You don't have to not be aggressive, but you got to strike the balance. There's a balance between aggressive and reckless. And at times he is reckless. But to add to what Reds was saying, I watched all of those matches too. But Reds, the question we have to ask, I believe that squad was picked before those games, right? And why I decipher that, again, going back to the media release, when Sammy says Anderson had solid seasons in the first class season, because Anderson pretty much failed throughout the South Africa A. He made a 52, and I remember he made 52 and the next ball he charged on the wicket. I was back in the pavilion, which was reminiscent of some of his innings for Guyana. He got to 101, next ball out. Got to 101 again, next ball out. So I have the feeling they had already picked that team before the A team, which to me, if that is indeed so, that was ridiculous, right? Because as you correctly said, these guys would have been told, look, guys, this here is also a trial for you.
A test trial.
Yes, for you to remain in this side. So you got to put your best foot forward.
Yeah, Reds, you wanted to respond to that? Reds and Andre?
I think basically we have spent a lot of time looking at at what went wrong. I just want to go back to the captaincy. They decided, well, it appears that Coach Sammy decided on Chase because he's the one who approached Chase. They decided, although he had not played any Test cricket for over 2 years, that he had been in the trenches. He had been in the battlefield. So he's had the experience. 40 odd Test matches.
Yeah, 49.
49, and they figure, well, you know, Imlach is much too young, but also the winning captain of the Guyana 4-day. But I didn't want Imlach to be given the captaincy. It would not have been wise, because after Australia, we play India. After India, we play New Zealand. No young captain wants to be thrown in at that level. So I think basically my original thought was, if you have an all-format coach, have an all-format captain. But Pope didn't want to have the inability to go and play white ball cricket. So he accepted the T20 and the 50 over. My thought then turned to Jason Holder. My thoughts turned to Jason Holder. And when you talk about catching, we certainly miss his catching, as we used to have with Gordon Greenidge, with Clive Lloyd, with Viv Richards, with Garnin in the gully, with Harper in the deep, with Logie at forward short leg and back and Bacchus. But I think basically Sammy has decided, and he's his own man, that he's looking beyond Holder in terms of Test cricket. He is looking at Holder maybe as a white ball player. But gentlemen, I think we must face up to the reality of what we are hearing about young Sharma Joseph. I mean, I was amazed, really amazed, and I don't know if these allegations are true, right? A man is innocent until proven guilty. And I think that the West Indies board should be playing him until there is some official situation where he's charged. But you know, it must be a tremendous mental matter to deal with, and you really have to say, boy, best of luck. But he was brilliant. He was the Sharma Joseph that we saw in Australia. Brilliant. Yeah. Now, okay. I saw the end of the last day of the 4-day game against South Africa, and all of a sudden, he just looked the part. He's looking the part, but we have to keep our fingers crossed that we are not going to lose our most effective artery along with seals.
Right. Okay, we're going to talk about that as a subject a little bit later on separately, and we're going to hear, without making judgments, as I think Red's made the case, without making judgments of innocence or guilt, but we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. One thing that directly affects the team here and now, and I'm sure that it can't be changed, and it probably won't be changed immediately, is this one-man selection team that we have got ourselves into. One man selecting the team, and I presume he's selecting all teams by himself. I mean, is that something that we can go with continuously? Basil?
All right, look. In theory, it sounds good, right? The concept, because I live here in the United States, and a professional franchise, when they're going through the draft, or they're going to be getting free agents coming into whatever the franchise, they got their scouts and the head coach along with the GM and so on. 1 or 2 hours of consensus would make the call in choosing the player, right? Now, that's a professional setup. We don't have a professional setup in the region. Here you have in this system, the chairman, the selector is the local scout, so to speak, in all the various territories. And we know in our amateur system, if you and the chairman and selector not on the same page, you can get shut out. So where is the professionalism? Are you sure that the chairman and selector is putting forward to you the best players in the respective territory? I remember I was on a program with one Jason Holder who was all gung-ho about this process, and I've been hearing through the grapevine, he now doesn't have the same feeling, because Sammy, for one, isn't seeing a lot of these other guys play. He's getting information from others. And for me, as a coach, I want to have my eyeballs on pretty much most of the guys I'm going to pick, and not just depend on other people, because I haven't developed that trust with them for them to go along with what they say about player X, Y, or Z.
Yeah. Andre?
Well, on the matter of selection, in looking around at international cricket, we have an example right before us of another nation changing hands of the head coach, their selection process, and what was done, and look at the results. So South Africa recently changed their head coach, and the very first statement that he made to the media was that he was not in favor of making wholesale changes. He wanted to continue with the philosophy of his predecessor, and he wanted to make the team better. He made 2 immediate changes, though. He elevated Bavuma to captaincy, and he reselected Makram, who was dropped, batting in the middle order, and he put him back into the position where he originally started his Test career, which is opening the baton for South Africa. What were the results from that? The next 9 Test matches, they won 8. They only drew 1. They won the World Test Championship. Bavuma's form has been incredible. And what it tells me is that he's been able to take a team that that no one believed in and made them better. West Indies cricket had invested in a number of players in recent years. I can name, in naming a few, you would say De Silva. In more recent times, Django and Imlak. And Athanaze would certainly be one of those. And Hodge has been a mainstay in the middle order for quite some time now. And in one fell swoop, our one captain slash coach slash selector slash coach gets rid of all that investment, and instead of making them better and coming with a vision and a philosophy to play for them to play in a different manner, he decides to change them and bring some old material, if you will, and respectfully so, and try to make them do things that they could not do before in their previous roles in Test cricket. I think the wrong approach, wrong sort of process, and what has led that is the one-man situation that the West Indies has appointed. Wrong move in my view, and something that must be reversed at the earliest point in time.
Let me just add this quickly too. The same coach, Conrad Sukri, is now the coach of all farms in South Africa. And you know what South Africa have done? They have now going to reinstall back their selectors as they used to have before, where the coaches started picking, because they immediately named the convener of selectors. And the first word out of Sukri's mouth was, I hope these selectors will have the same philosophy like me. So South Africa, understand, you can't put this thing in one man's hand. No, you have to have other voices that have significant say. You can't just have one person.
Okay. And that's quite correct, because what we had in a situation like ours, our head coach was in England and Ireland with the white ball teams, while the other guys, or some of them, were at home trying to prepare to play against the best team in the world. That, of course, we're seeing the results of that at the moment. 7 chances go down, batting in a disarray. Can't work, in my view.
Okay, gentlemen, let us go to the studio for a break, and we're going to come back to the discussion. Just to indicate that our listeners and viewers that we're talking about that painful subject called West Indies cricket, something that has been going on in our insides. Those of us, sometimes I wish that I didn't have this disease about West Indian cricket. It brings pain and suffering, but I've been with it since I was 5 years old, and I'm not 25 years old now. So you can imagine the pain that has gone on over the years. We have Basil Butcher, we have Joseph Reds Pereira, and Andre Lawrence, and we had Bruce and Ansel for a while, but we weren't getting his audio. And maybe in the break, I'll make a call to him to see what could happen. So, Sir Charles, take it, and we come back to the discussion in a moment.
Sir Charles for the mid-morning mix and mingle, where good music, real talk, health, and family matters come together, and your voice is heard. Whether you're at work, on the go, or just taking a break, this is the perfect mix to keep you engaged, informed, and entertained. The mid-morning mix and mingle, weekdays, 9 a.m. to 12 noon on New Era TT Radio, Nett Radio.
S&H Rumbox, 137 Western Main Road, St. James, for all your retail and wholesale needs for alcohol and non-alcoholic beverages. Call us at 686-0599 or visit us at 137 Western Main Road, St. James. S&H Rumbox, drinking out of the box.
This summer, give your child skills of a lifetime with several boot camp. Children between the ages of 5 to 17 come enjoy Children Iron Chef competition. Your child will learn to prepare healthy breakfast, lunch, dinner, CPR, first aid, and conflict management. With field trip, your child will be given free apron and certification upon completion. Call 492-7397 or 336-4935. Institute of Health and Fitness Company Limited, located at number 79 St. Vincent Street, Tunapuna.
Advertise with us on New Era TT Radio, the fastest growing streaming platform for talk in Trinidad and Tobago. Audio and video ads welcome. Elevate your brand with us. Connect with us at newerattradio@yahoo.com or call us at 299-5156. Now what are you waiting for?
Everybody, and we welcome you back to New Era TT Radio. We call it Nett Radio for short. Yeah. And of course, remember you can pick us up on newerattradio.com. So you can follow us on our website. You can also pick us up on your browsers. Just put in New Era TT Radio, and of course, you will be able to listen to us on TuneIn. You can get us on all your Alexa and Google devices. You can also pick us up on Facebook, YouTube, where you're listening to us right now also, Instagram, and also on our TikTok page. And you can join our breakfast show. We stream on M&E TV between 6 and 8 a.m. in the morning, where we take you to channels like Flow, Digicel, Amplier, and Tricore. There are a number of ways that you can get us. Just put in New Era TT Radio and you're sure to find us. As we get back to the program, just put in New Era TT.
Thank you very much, Charlo. So there is no reason why someone cannot listen to look at the station.
No.
Times when we are visually on the air. Yes?
Yes, you can, right? Just to remind you, gentlemen, that you will have to unmute your microphones. I muted you guys through the break just now.
All right, so we are back here. Let me ask the question of all of you, starting with anyone who wants to start off on what can we do about, in the immediate situation in this test series, about the mental deficiencies that are so clear and evident and always come into the mix, as it were, about our players, particularly our batsmen. They seem incapable of thinking their way out of difficult situations. Reds, you want to start us off? Take off the mute on your microphone.
Muted Reds. On mute.
You need to
Yeah, he's
unmute.
muted again.
All right. Basil, you better go on until we get into this.
Look, players, at this point, you got to look at what your players' strengths are, right? From a mental perspective, and have them to play the game from a mental perspective with their strengths. You can't do anything at this juncture to change much of that. So you got to lean on your strengths and stick with your strengths in the situations. And you have to develop the player. Each individual has to have a individual game plan for every bowler and in all the various situations. I heard somebody, Carl Hooper, made an interesting comment the other day on a radio program. Said he was reading an article in which Chase said we as a batting unit have to look at how we're going to work as a unit. And he said, no, it's individual, because each individual have their strengths and weaknesses. You can't talk about dealing with bowlers as a unit. You have to talk about what you can do with each and every bowler based on the situation. That's Test cricket, and that's cricket, period. You can have an overall philosophy of how you would want to go about doing things, but individually, because as we all know, cricket is an individual sport within the context of a team sport, because when you as a batter standing up there facing up to the bowler is mano y mano, there ain't nothing else to help you, no teammates or anything. You have to make the decisions.
Well, Basil, I can tell you it's a long time I haven't heard a cricket analyst talk about the individualistic side of the game of cricket. And it's a very, very valid point that I fully agree with. We speak about the game and the team and the approach as a team, but the way I've learned the game is that batting in particular, it's a very personal and individualistic thing. It's different to other sports, very, very different. But while you prepare as a team, certainly you know and understand your own game, and the way you play certainly impacts on the team's overall performance. Certainly, it can make a significant difference. So learning and understanding the game as an individual and conforming to the best that you can be, that is certainly one of the better ways for them to approach things.
Yes.
Having said that, in the short term, as you say, there isn't much else that one can do. I think what will happen at St. George's is traditionally a much easier playing surface. It has a bit of bounce at times, but you can play your shots. And if these players go out there and try to play their natural game, I think they're going to fare a little bit easier than what happened in Barbados. I think we're going to see maybe some better scores. We're going to be maybe a little bit more competitive. I don't see us winning the game because you're talking about an Australia that's going to be strengthened and they've just come off a win. So a team that has just won is going to be fully confident, although they were under pressure at certain times in Barbados, but they're going to feel a little bit more at ease now, and they're going to be, I think, stronger coming into the second test, particularly when you add Smith to the batting lineup. And he's now basically fit to do so. So, yes, Basil, I couldn't agree more. The guys themselves have to certainly get out there, get in the nets, get practicing, and think about what they can do to make sure that they are at their best.
Can I ask Andre a question? Because you said something about the pitch in Grenada, but I heard some Australian guys who were there doing the commentary said when the Australians saw the pitch practice, they were very surprised to see the amount of grass on the pitch. There was a smile that came across the bowler's face when they saw the amount of grass on the pitch. So it may be very interesting to see how that pitch will work out with that amount of grass.
No, not unfamiliar for St. George's. It tends to be a bit of bounce, a bit of pace, and you can play your shots. But certainly, if you bend your back, you might get something out of it. But I have not seen the pitch. Maybe they're going to shave some of that grass off, which they customarily do just before the actual match. But I expect a better, more true, I should say, playing surface than what we saw at Kensington.
Gotcha.
I know we're still trying to get Bruce on, but I know that Bruce had put something online talking about the quality of pitch that was played on in Barbados. So was that a factor? Yeah, we bowled the Australians out in the first innings for what it was, 180 something. And certainly there was some assistance for the bowlers. I didn't think it was extraordinary, but Bruce, I know, made that a factor in terms of how the West Indian batsmen played on the surface.
Well, certainly, from what it looked like very early in the game when West Indies got on top on day one, it looked like there was a fair amount of preparation moisture probably under the surface because the ball did quite a bit off the surface, and the Australians could not play their shots. You know, they're aggressive; they normally come at you, but they were bogged down by some excellent line and length bowling with aggression from the West Indies throughout the day. What surprised me is that it didn't get that much better. It seemed to keep doing stuff as the match progressed, and then the bounce became quite variable. And that is probably what Bruce is alluding to, in that it didn't get much better at all for batting, which I said surprised me. I thought it would have gotten much better for batting later on the first day or maybe into the second day. But no, the bowlers seemed to be always in it in this match, and it got progressively worse.
Yeah, because the batters stated that the issue was getting in, but if you could get in, it was a lot easier. And to some of my friends who were fast bowlers who had played in Barbados said, the first day is usually the bowlers are most of it, but then second and third day is the batters, and that pitch, and again, coming back to Campbell, why would you play shots like that on a pitch that has variable bounce? Those are very, very low percentage shots, right? So again, the thinking, they have to be a little more clear in the thinking.
And Basil, that comes back to my question. Is it possible to deal with the minds of our batsmen? We have to start at some point in time. We can't say we're going to put it off until after the series and so on. We have to implement it now. And I return to the question, can we do something about this thinking of our players? For instance, the opener Campbell. Can somebody tell him that he can't play that shot consistently and expect to get through with it? It's madness, pure madness.
No, but
he was age 19, maybe.
But you know something? The captain in the post-match press conference said you can't come up in too hard, because of the shot he plays. A lot, and look, he played 1 for 4. I watched Campbell bat every game in the first class, and that was part of his arsenal in every game, right? And I say to myself, this guy must think that he played T20 cricket or because those shots are really risky shots. But the point you're talking about, mental getting to them, that's where if we had some of the former stars, like somebody, a great batter, for example, around the team that can give some input to these guys about, how to deal with certain situations, because he would have been there, done it. But we don't have that around the team.
Reds Pereira, a moment ago, in fact, some time ago, after we came back on, your microphone was muted, so we couldn't get through to you, and you couldn't get through to us. So just for everybody to know, if you take your mic off for a moment or two, for some specific reason, remember to put it back on. Otherwise, we won't be able to hear you. Reds, what we were talking about, the question I put forward is, can we do something about the mental health almost of our batsmen between now and tomorrow.
Tony, my brother, I want to plead not guilty. I did not take myself out. Your gentleman said at the break he did it. I was unaware, so I managed with my little knowledge and his guidance to get back on. Right. Let's go back to the point that I missed out about the changing of selectors totally, which was wrong. We had selectors from 1928, and I think over the years, those selectors have done a magnificent job. By the time we started the World War, I mean, now we started, the World War was started. We had started to make strides going up. We had started to compete, the likes of Headley, our fast bowlers, and to have changed that system was totally wrong. Selectors were appointed over the years. The selectors were made to watch every first-class game. They will get together, put their notes. They might invite the captain. They might invite who's appointed coach to throw in their 2 cents. I think basically that was a mistake. And we need to come back to having selectors. We need to come back to having selectors. I think it's almost unfair, and I hope Basil is sitting down and hearing me. It's almost unfair to ask one man to coach 3 teams. You might say, hi, England is doing that. Gentlemen, let's look at the resources available to our New Zealand gentleman who is in fact in charge of England. The resources financially, the resources in terms of facilities, the resources in terms of former players who can be around. Anderson is being asked to be the bowling coach. I see Roach wasn't asked to be the bowling coach. You can think about that. Interesting. A man with a very fine record, a good communicator. We have to go back to selectors. We have to go back to a different coach for the test team. If you want to have one man coaching the 2 white ball teams, okay, we can go with that. We can certainly go with that. Until we make those changes, going back to what worked for us. What worked for us? We dominated the world for 15 years. We beat India in 49. We beat England in 1950. We beat India in 1953. We ran into Australia in 55, the end of the Bradman era. We beat Australia in 65. Lloyd's team beat Australia for the first time in a series in 59-60.
No, 79-80.
Yeah, 79-80. We need to go back to what worked for us. The other thing about our first-class cricket is the shortest season in the world. You know, when you hear somebody being brought into the South African team or to the Australian team, he had 80 or 90, 110 first-class matches. We have to play people who have got 15 and 20 first-class matches. Our first-class season is not sponsored. It's a financial drain on the board. And until our commercial people head to Guyana and see President Ali with the board in support to see if, in fact, ExxonMobil would like to sponsor our first-class season, as they are doing a lot of sponsorship in Guyana. Why can't we ask ExxonMobil to sponsor our first class season? We need to get our A team playing more cricket. How are we going to develop our on the 21 and on the 23 if we are not getting more A team cricket? South Africa A was a fine example. That needs to continue. We need to bring the best and play against the best. And I want to end by saying, after the 4-day competition, we missed a major event. Where was the Headley Weeks? Where was the Headley Weeks tournament? That is what they should have followed. The Headley Weeks tournament. In place, we had the breakout tournament. My honest opinion, I could think of 4 or 5 players that really caught my eye. Some of the players playing was players that we've known for years. So where is the breakout? If you're having a breakout, you have to have, in fact, Barbados yesterday started a competition block by block to get some new talent. We have to look at creating a situation where our secondary school comes back to the days where we had the Laras and the Hoopers and all those players. Secondary school cricket in the Caribbean is at a very low ebb. Our girls are learning cricket too big. Our girls play everything in secondary school. They play track, they run track, they play netball, they play volleyball, they play basketball, they swim, etc. They play squash, they play table tennis. Our girls are not playing any cricket at the secondary school. On the 19 Women's World Cup, we saw the embarrassment of our level against the rest of the world. Until we get those things right, we aren't going to be able to get back. And in terms of using the former test players, Desmond Haynes or Gordon Greenidge should have been in Grenada today, right? Being able to talk to those players about building an innings. Clive Lloyd might have been right. Desmond Haynes should have been the batting coach and not the chairman of the selectors.
A lot of good thoughts inside there. The question I wanted to ask was almost answered by Reds in that statement, is that again, with the focus on this series, is there something that we can do that will help the mental approach? And included in that mental approach is something I call pride, which incidentally Gordon Greenidge, when you remember, he had a short stint with the batsmen. I still can't say that word batters, but that's another story. It gets me wild when I hear about it.
I don't say batters.
I can't say that, but seriously, when I spoke to Gordon Greenidge when he had that short stint with the batsmen, and I said, well, how do you make a differentiation between the players, the batsmen, players generally of your time, and the team of batsmen that you're working with? And I, had my recorder and I was looking for a wonderful 5-minute response. He said one word: pride. The fellas don't have pride they don't understand what West Indies cricket means to themselves and to people all over the Caribbean region. So I include that in terms of being able to work on the mental capacity of our batsmen in particular. Can that be assisted at this point in time?
Tony, I'll just say one thing with regards to mentorship. Do you remember we won 3 World Cups in 1 year? And under 19 Women's World Cup and a Men's T20 World Cup? Curtly Ambrose and 1 or 2 other former test cricketers or senior cricketers, international cricketers, were involved in those teams. You know what the Cricket West Indies did right after the third World Cup win, we got rid of them. That's West Indies cricket for you.
Yeah,
Basil?
I agree. That's why I brought up the mentorship, because as I when I spoke to you yesterday, Tony, I was telling you, I always spent a lot of time from a little boy going with my father around cricket at the, Shell Shield trials and so on. And the one thing he always would say to me, he would use the word, I'm going to quote him verbatim, I learned 99% of my cricket in the dressing room. He taught, and every time thing about him, whenever he would tell me something, he would always give me a story. And he gave me one example. His first time coming to Georgetown, playing the trial match, Clyde Walker comes in to bat with him. And Clyde Walker hits the ball and nods. And he said, well, I a country boy. I only know but yes or no. He ain't know but no nod. And he stood his ground and ran out the big man. And he said to me, he thought his career was over before it started. But he said at the end of the day's play, they all would go into the dressing room. They had border. Walcott, Clifford McQuat, Kenny Wishart, Glendon Gibbs, they would all come into the dressing room and discuss the day's play, discuss cricket. And in that incident, he always remember, he said, Clifford McQuat said, we got some country boys here that don't know how to run singles. He knew who he was talking about. And he said, as the guy at the term, when Puppy turned dog, he reminded McQuat about it. And McQuat said, you remember that? He said, of course. You could have sent me back to where I come from. To say that, mentorship. And the thing about it, when my father retired from playing for Guyana, etc., when he played what we call Case Cup First Division, every time at the end of the day's play, he would sit down with the guys, he would tell guys, come, and he would sit down for like 2 hours discussing cricket with them, right? And that is something that has been lost in our development of our players. I would want to also add on to something Red said, talking about the amount of games, but I would just want to remind folks, Australia only plays 10 first-class matches a year. South Africa, 7 or 8, right? The thing is, the difference is this, is not so much how many first-class games you play, is the quality of the cricket below the first-class level that those countries, their players are enabled in the development. So when they go and play in the first-class games, it is serious like how it used to be on Shell Shield in the past, where they play only 5 or 4 games. As some of the guys who played back in them days to tell me, Butch, it was dog eat dog, because every season you might have had 1 or 2 spaces open, possibly open in a West Indies team. Like I'll give an example. I read you remember this very well. 78, Fredo retired. We got an opening spot in the test team. And all 12 openers, if you will, minus Gordon Greenwich, will be 11, were now in the game to get into the West Indies team in 78 for the Australia series. So it was, I remember as a youngster, every day I would open the papers or listen to the sports news to see which guy made runs in the different shell sheet. And it was this competition, right? But below the shell shield, back in those days, the standard of cricket was so good that guys were so well prepared, even with playing 4 or 5 shell shield matches, to go on to the test arena. And that's one of the cruxes in our cricket today. The standard is low from ground zero all the way up. So you have guys moving up the ladder with all kinds of flaws that in the past, they would have fell by the wayside because the standard would have been too tough for them to move up. And in my view, Cricket West Indies and the territorial boards have never addressed that fundamental issue. But we have to have guys who've been there, the Viv Richards, the Laras, etc., around these guys more.
Yeah.
Well, certainly, Basil, I agree. And just a point there on why I've said it for years. Our players are arriving on the international scene severely underdeveloped.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the way Cricket West Indies operates, huge amounts of resources and corporate sponsorship is pumped into the senior game, the youth development. That is where, for me, needs major attention so that when the players get into the first class level, they are accomplished technically to the point where they can be better players playing against themselves, playing against other territories. But that's not the case. Just remember, we had the Scotiabank kiddie cricket program for quite a while. When Scotiabank left, I don't think we still have anyone that sponsors kiddie cricket in the region. And how many years ago has that been? We've seen right here in Trinidad, no primary schools cricket competitions at points in time because there's just no sponsorship really, or maybe the board does not seem to think that it's important. And therein lies one of our major developmental issues. The youngsters coming through are arriving on the international stage underdeveloped and learning the game on the job, which is of course 10 million times harder.
Yep.
Yeah. Just let me ask you. Sorry. Before you go in, Basil, let me ask you to you all gentlemen, because we have some time again, but we don't have all that time. Can a question that is directed immediately to the team, to the test match tomorrow, can we rearrange the batting in any way that can serve a better purpose? If we don't have too many choices to make in terms of alternatives, then perhaps we could shake up the pack a little bit, given the qualities of the players that we have at the moment.
Maybe they could send Braves to bat at 3 and put Carty down the order, because I don't see Carty as a number 3 at Test cricket.
Okay, so that's one possibility. Reds?
I would like to see Hope not keep. Save his legs for the batting. Allow Imlat to come in. Like the batting. It's really difficult when you remember Barbados to really rearrange the order. I mean, we have invested in King as an opening batsman. I remember when the late Tony Becker was begging for King to be included in the trials in Jamaica. He was asking for him to play at number 4 or number 5. All of a sudden, King is thrown in at the deep end because of the aggressive policy that we have heard about. Again, I don't know what kind of mindset they could possibly achieve over the next 24 hours. But they've got a greater price on the wicket. They've got to fight. They've got to fight and not throw away the wickets very easily. And for God's sake, we got to take catches. Australia would not have made 180 if we had taken those catches. They might not have made 150. So I mean, it's so many areas. But the point about the mentors, we have great players around. We have Ambrose and Walsh. We have Richards and Lara, still young men. You have Lloyd, who is very articulate. I just spent 5 days with the legends, Khalid Shuran is there, technically a very, very good player. Can help these left-handers, can help the batting. But it's up to the board to maybe to reverse gear. Up to the board to reverse gear. Secondary school, Basil, it's very, very low standard.
Well, in Guyana, as you know, Reds, we have no school cricket, period. And we haven't had school cricket in Guyana for over 30 odd years.
Gentlemen, we have spent the time talking about the batsmen generally. Yes, we have a decent enough bowling attack. The 3 fast bowlers bowling. and they got good success in that first innings. Not so good success in the second innings, and we've talked about the catches that were dropped and so on. Is there anything? I think somebody early on mentioned the left arm spinner. Is there something that we can do to the bowling attack to strengthen it a little bit more than it is at this point?
I quite like the idea that was it Reds or Basil
Me, me,
proposed? It
me.
was Basil, yeah,
Yeah.
proposed. If in particular, if St. George's, that as I say, can be quite pacey and bouncy at times, does have a lot of grass on it, and that is maintained for this test match. Yes, I would say remove Warrican from your lineup completely. Play the four fast bowlers, get Anderson in, and you
Mm-hmm.
have Greaves as backup.
Mm-hmm.
That would be for me the one change that I would have made with the bowling lineup. The other guys look quite unsung. They look fit, fast, eager, and bowled, I think, incredibly well throughout the entire match, and put on Australia under enormous pressure. They weren't comfortable at all for any length of time, really. So no other changes than that, in my view.
Yeah.
And I would add, imagine Seals was not at his best. So Australia got some stuff to get, because he took 5 wickets, and that bodes well for him, that he could take 5 wickets and not be at his best.
Oh, yeah.
Gentlemen, Reds raised an issue earlier on which directed at our bowling attack. It's clear that we have a bowler who has done extremely well at the Test cricket level over a period of time. I thought we allowed him to go wander into the franchise tournaments and all of that, got injured, etc., etc. But of course, if a young man is to make some dollars and the franchise comes to him, it is difficult to allow that kind of money to go by. After all, he has to buy a gold chain like the one around his neck. That is not sweetie money. That irritates me no end, But I say to myself, that's a West Indian culture, and okay. West Hall used to put it under his shirt and hide it around with a little tin kind of thing. But these fellas have a thing around the neck and a thing on the hand. Oh, Lord, that must be a distraction. But are we going to lose, the best bowler we have, or should we lose the best bowler that we have at this point in time because of other matters?
I'll be frank. I go the other way of Reds. Shamar Joseph should not be playing for the West Indies at this moment. Right? It is a...
Basil, how do you, on that score, how do you respond to the well-known dictum that a man is innocent until proven guilty?
No. Well, let me just say this. I'm using precedents. Here in the United States, we have athletes who have been suspended by leagues without even going to court. Once those allegations have been made against them, because they have code of conduct. The second thing, it is also damaging to the brand of the team or leagues. Now, if we go, for example, for sponsorship, and some of the people that we have to talk to for the sponsorship are women, and they hear about we are playing a guy who has 11 or more alleged rapes, complaints against him by women. That woman might say, look, this is not a team or entity we want to ally ourselves with, right? I mean, I could go down the line of numerous athletes here in the United States. That's where I'm taking my thing from. None of them ain't get convicted. A guy knock his wife, he gets suspended, right? Whether the wife gonna press charge later or not, he is still suspended because you violated code of conduct. And in this day and age, any violence against women and sexual abuse and so on is a heightened sensitivity, which I do not see with Cricket West Indies. And just to add to that, last year in November, you remember Joseph left the ODI series.
That's correct.
To go back to Guyana. You know why he went back to Guyana? Because he had to go and deal with a settlement of one of his rape cases. He settled with a person. So Cricket West Indies knew of his behavior then. He should not have been playing again since then, in my view. And now we see this explosion.
Yeah, so right? that's what I was going to mention in my
sorry, Andre. Before you go on, I'll come back to you. Yeah. I'm being provocative here, and I say that other countries aren't as loyal and ethical as we are. We West Indians get all the Bible and the teaching of good and bad, and we have to behave ourselves. What's his name? Steve, whatever his name is. And the other one get caught in rank francomen, as we say in Trinidad, thievery. They give them a little pat on the shoulder. We want to play that we're more righteous than anybody else. How do you respond to that, Basil? Basil, you're the man who want to throw the man in the pond.
No. Well, look. The same. Now think about this. Australia, who we're playing against. You remember Chris Gale several years ago in an interview with a sideline reporter made some comments that in other nations on the workplace that will be viewed as sexual harassment. I had discussions with former West Indies players and others who said, "No, man, the man joking." I said, "Let me tell you something. At the workplace, you can't engage that kind of discussion with a woman, because if you do, if she wants, she could take you up for sexual
harassment."
Yes, I remember at my job, but when I used to work, a guy was just trying to talk to a girl, meaning interested in her romantically. She did not like it, reported him, but the senior manager told the guy, "Look, you better transfer, because if you don't, and she goes in and file these charges, you're gonna lose your job." He had to transfer out from where we were working, right? And this is just trying to talk to her in a romantic situation at work. I think in the Caribbean, we may be behind in terms of that understanding vis-a-vis women. I will tell you, I am very surprised that women's groups around the Caribbean have not come out and made statements and so on and so forth. That's why West Indies board, in my view, is getting away with murder. That nobody has challenged them in that sense.
Reds, are we a little bit holier than thou?
Well, everybody's hearing about allegations. My feeling is that the law will take its course. And if he is guilty, he will pay the penalty. But I don't see him not playing in Grenada. Maybe I don't see him playing in Jamaica, but I see him playing in Jamaica. But the law is the law. The lawyers will act, and we just have to wait and see what's the evidence, and let there be justice for all.
Yeah. Andre, back to you. Sorry, I stopped you in mid-flight just
now. No. That's okay. I ducked under the bouncer, let it sway, and now I can face the next ball. So what I would say, Tony, in a case like this, is that I was going to bring exactly the point that Basil mentioned, that it's not the first time unfortunately, with Shama having to deal with a similar circumstance. That's one. The second thing is, it's the amount of allegations. It is one thing to say that someone has made an allegation, but when you're talking 11 plus have made allegations, therein lies a bigger problem. When you add that to having to deal with one of those cases before, I mean, I can't say that the man is guilty. As
Mm-hmm.
Red says, the law will take its course.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly, it's an issue that has crept into his space once again. And for that reason, and for me, it would have been difficult for me to have him play. Not just for an allegation, for the amount of allegations and for
Mm-hmm.
another allegation. That is what would have made my determination. Because anybody can say something about a player, and what
Mm-hmm.
do you do? Drop the entire team? It's
Mm-hmm.
difficult to do so.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, tough, very, very tough situation, but too many allegations and a repeat allegation. And for that, I would not have played him. But it brings me again down to the conversation about development and holistic development being
Mm-hmm.
something we should be focusing on very much with the younger players. So the
Mm-hmm.
players coming through, it's not just about ball, bat, and fielding. It's about understanding how to deal with pressures, understanding about life skills, understanding about improving their education. All of those things are missing in West Indies cricket at the moment. They all add to the entire pot that is West Indies cricket and the challenges we have today. So lots of work for us to do at home.
Can playing the player in the circumstances be a blemish on West Indies cricket? Let's assume that the player comes and does very well, 6, 7 wickets in each innings. Somebody might say, well, we only do so because we have a criminal. Maybe they'll go as far as saying that he intimidate the other players. West Indian
Yes.
cricketers and cricket are held to a different standard than the others. So, but seriously, can playing him, whatever he does in the game, be a blemish on West Indies cricket?
I could answer that from the perspective and circle lots of the people in my circle who right now don't even want to watch him bowl. It's gone to that point. They don't even want to watch him bowl. Rather than celebrating his performance in Barbados, or the focus is on the alleged victim, right? And to me, that's where West Indies cricket, in my view, have got this situation wrong. And look, I'm not talking about him guilty or not. I am, as Andre correctly said, it's the amount of allegations and having to deal with this. Look, I heard in 2023, I was told a friend of mine was in Guyana, went up to Barbies with his youth team from the US, called me and said he heard some Barbies cricketer has been accused of rape. So I said, who? Well, he said he didn't know, because this is when he just was coming onto the scene. So we didn't even know who this guy was, right? It's until after his heroics in Australia, a social media personality went on, because apparently the young lady was getting the runaround with her case and reached out to this personality, and she spilled the beans. Yeah. Now, when I heard...
Gentlemen, are we having... can we be accused, Tony, and you are the experience about us, can we be accused of having our own trial?
No, I'm not trying him at all. Because what I am
sorry, just one thing that I thought on a couple of occasions that we went a little bit too far. Let us not call names. Let us not point fingers directly at the player, etc. Everybody knows who that is. Let us not join that band. We are talking in principle about the selection of a player.
Look, for me, the issue is larger than the said player. For me, the issue is the system in Guyana that has not adjudicated these things seriously. That's where my biggest problem is. And the said player, because of precedent that I spoke of earlier, that if I view this from a code of conduct, which is a lower threshold than getting found guilty or not, right? because I have seen so many athletes here in the United States, as I said earlier, just been accused of domestic violence, etc., and were suspended by their teams, the league, etc. So in that front is where I am looking at this. And then from a larger picture, sponsors and so on and so forth. And remember our current president said there will be a zero tolerance to this kind of behavior around West Indies cricketers. When asked about the allegations about the young lady that came forward about what happened in the past.
Mm-hmm. You know, there is one thing that just crossed my mind, and I have heard it about other players and other coaches. And the concern, and I'm not even going to get close to who those people are. You must have, all of you must have heard it, if I have heard it, and you're closer to the game than I am. That there is a difficulty, or there is the possibility, if we allow one situation to go further or not go further than it has gone. And I've heard, incidentally, the prosecuting attorney making arguments and allegations as if the state is standing in the way of doing something about this. And the point I'm making is that if this situation is allowed to escape scrutiny from the courts, that it can become an accepted way for all kinds of players and officials to adopt going forward. Is that a possibility that can happen, Reds?
Tony, I would like to change the bowling. I would like to take off the fast bowlers. And let us now look at something that we have not mentioned at all. Is there too much white ball cricket being played in the Caribbean? T10, 5 overs, T20, and we have our young players playing in some of these competitions. What does the panel think about the amount of white ball and the very few red ball tournaments that you're being played?
Yeah, Reds. Sorry, before you go on, Reds, you will have to add to that. Not simply the white ball or the red ball or the yellow ball. You have to add the green backs to that, because that is what is attracting our players. They want to accumulate in the way. And sometimes, you know, they look back at some of our stars of the past who, not all of them eaten out of dustbins, but we have had some of those who have eaten out of dustbins in the past. And so the question to go along with that is, how do we support our players and keep them away from that kind of temptation?
We need to strike a balance with our players. We need to have the right people talking to our players. We are not against the players playing white ball cricket, but other countries seem to have players who have a greater commitment to the national team. In our case, the West Indies. We need to see if we can have a discussion, have people with the right skills who can bring about a change of mind. I know everybody has to eat, as somebody once said, but you know, let us remember that it is the West Indies individual boards through under 19 and under 13 and under 15, Shell Shield Cricket, Buster Cup, that brought them to this level. We have developed these players. You know, should there be a balance between loyalty to the West Indies and also looking after your financial future?
Yeah, you know, I just want to, I am sure that Sir Charles has the right piece of music to play at the end of this program, which is going to be in a minute or two. But, you know, I remember the Mighty Sparrow singing about the administrators of West Indies cricket, there's a line to the effect that the players wanted to have money like me and Jerry. He's quoting, the me is Stallmeyer and the Jerry is Jerry Gomez. And remember that, I'm sure that everybody remembers that whole thing about the cricket going professional. We are at another point in time where the cricket has gone professional. And these young players, now I'm not advocating them that they do that, but I'm saying that it's a whole social and economic problems. Too many of our great sportsmen, cricketers, footballers have ended up in a bad place. And if some of these young fellas, I don't agree with them, but I can't disagree with them attempting to make a living for themselves and their family. So I'm saying that we have to cross that bridge in terms of gaining the solidarity of our players with West Indies and West Indian cricket. Gentlemen, I want to give each of you 30 seconds because we are pushing our stop time. Reggie or Dale, you want to start off first? 30 seconds.
Well, I hope that we could be competitive not just for 2 days in Grenada, but we can be competitive for 4 days in Grenada.
Basil?
I wish the team all the best. I would want a more competitive match. As Red said, I would like to see the game go to 5 days, if possible. You know, a nail biter, if you will. And what more I'm looking for is to see improvement in the various areas that we were deficient in Barbados.
Andre.
Tony, just very, very quickly, I can tell you that at 28 years ago, I retired from first class cricket. And then the younger generation below me, they actually, instead of staying after each match and learning about the game, talking about the game in which I grew up in, that's the environment I grew up in, they rushed off to play win ball cricket. And they still do so. It's a very lucrative thing right now. So that's to tell you how much it's entrenched in us, the shorter version of the game. We have to channel our players into understanding what is about their development and our legacy. But having said that, all the very best to the West Indies team tomorrow. As a group here, I'm sure we all want to see a successful West Indies. And irrespective of all the challenges we have, here's wishing them the very best tomorrow.
Okay, me too. And we have to leave it there for the moment. Sir Charles, over to you. Your choice of music. I tried to influence it a little bit with your song, but
I tried, but
sorry, partner. Sorry.
That is all right because I couldn't find it. Sorry.
Okay.
Great show, guys.
All right.
So thank you very much, gentlemen, for being here on New Era TT Radio as we talk cricket today. And of course, maybe you can get a rerun of the program tomorrow morning at around 20 minutes past the hour of 8 o'clock on newerattradio.com. Thank you very much, everybody.
He said he heard so much about cricket, but he wants someone to explain it. Test match between Australia and we, so we start listening to the commentary. He hear the ball swinging. He started asking about Kazan. He want to apply for the job as the night watchman. Just then he hear single. He say like married people can't play this game. When he hear the bowler have a third man, he say them homos and have no shame.
Keeping the ball away from Richard. Rubs his fingers in the soil, comes in once more. Richards goes back, tries to cut it out for the wicket. Marsh takes the chances, Richards tries to cut. Just got a top edge onto it. And the Australians naturally jubilant in getting the prime West Indian wicket. Richards caught Marsh, bowled by Bright for 88.
Imagine my calamity, explaining cricket to the shiny. He never see cricket before, so he starts saying stupid things in galore. Everything he want to consume, so he went and turned up the volume. With this radio blasting in my head, he continued saying things that I dread. He go to Richards a leg break. He say, boy, that game dangerous. He asked me if that means Richards getting 3 months sick leave, of course. The bowler that was spinning, he wonder if he catch Malkadi. When he hear Clive like get
the sentry. He said somebody take toilet paper quickly.
Ready with 5 seconds after 12, Australia.